My name is Rhea Calder, 32 years old. The night we walked up my parents' front steps smelled like lemon polish and performance. Travis held the door with his shoulder while Camilla tucked into my side, her scarf twisted in a nervous knot between small fingers. She clutched the rabbit by its soft, thinned ear, the one that had been kissed bare by time. She only brought him on anxious nights, like armor you could hold. I knew before the bell chimed how the dining room would look. Napkins folded into little swans, china flexed from the cabinet as if royalty might drop by. My mother in her cheerful hostess mask, and my father doing his practiced impression of background furniture. Amanda, my sister, would glow because she always glowed here. The family's success story, even when the facts said otherwise. I would be the extra, the polite smile, the person who's supposed to be grateful for being invited to her own history. Pie, I said, holding up the box like a neutral offering. Mom kissed air. Dad nodded at the ceiling. Amanda's eyes slid to the rabbit and rolled. Oh, she still drags that thing around. Camilla hugged it tighter. The comment had been a punchline in this house before. More than once I'd heard Mom sigh. How long are we going to watch her drag that rag everywhere? Followed by Amanda's sneer. 8 years old and still acting like a baby? To them it was trash. To Camilla it was a last bridge to a mother I never got to meet, a quiet voice that whispered, "You're not alone." You learn to read attachments when you love a grieving child. What looks like fluff is a life raft. We sat. Water glasses clicked. A rich smell of butter and thyme drifted from the kitchen. For 3 peaceful seconds, it felt possible to survive this dinner with nothing worse than a few barbed remarks. Then Mason, Amanda's tornado of a 10-year-old, leaned across the table and pointed. What's that ugly bunny? Let me see. No, Camilla said, small but firm. He had a decade of adult jokes about the creepy old rabbit banked up behind his grin. He lunged, grabbed the rabbit by its arm, and bolted around the table. Camilla shot up, chair legs gasping on hardwood. Give it back, her voice cracked. It's mine. Mason, I snapped. Stop now. He ignored me, squealing with a kind of sport-gone-mean joy. The room shook. The china sang a thin warning as he weaved around the buffet. Travis stood. Enough. Nobody listened. Mason swerved too sharply, hip-checking the table. A blue vase tilted, tried to remember balance, failed. It shattered on the floor with a crack so clean it erased sound. Hey! Hey! Camilla lunged, catching the rabbit's other arm. For a heartbeat, both children held, tugging, crying, and laughing, the room a tangle of noise, until Mom stormed in and stopped dead over the shards. My vase, she said, like the word was a prayer. Do you know how much that cost? Camilla was still pulling. Let go, she cried. Mason giggled, twisting away. I moved, Travis moved, but Mom moved faster. Give it here, she snapped and yanked hard. The seam ripped with a brittle pop. The rabbit's side tore open. One arm dangled by a thread in Mom's hand. You broke it! Camilla's scream cut through the room like a blade. It wasn't only for Mason or for Mom, it was for all of it. Mom's face sharpened. Enough with this junk. Your mom's dead. Time to get over it. She said it flat, as if stating the time. Amanda chimed in like a chorus she'd rehearsed. Exactly. You're too old for stuffed animals. That's for babies. It was my mom's gift, Camilla whispered, clutching the torn rabbit with both hands, eyes wide with shock. Mom pushed her little fingers aside and twisted the knife. Your mom's been gone for years. Stop making a tragedy out of nothing. Then, as if to put a period on the cruelty, she pinched the dangling arm and tore it off. She balled the rabbit and tossed it into the trash can by the sideboard. Quick, efficient, disposable. She turned back to her vase like the room was finally back to the right subject. Look what you've done to my house. Can't anyone behave like civilized people? There are moments when rage comes like heat and others when it comes like clarity. I felt only clarity. I walked to the trash, lifted the greasy napkins and stray crusts, and pulled out the rabbit, its seam ripped, its face smeared with someone else's dinner. I handed it to Camilla. It's okay, sweetheart, I said evenly. We'll fix him, I promise. She nodded through tears and pressed her forehead into Travis's chest, clutching the rabbit's good arm like it was oxygen. I turned to my mother. You didn't just throw away a toy, I said. You threw away her right to remember, to grieve, to keep her mother close. Oh, don't start, she scoffed. It's a rag, that's all. She flicked a hand at my crying child like swatting a fly. No reason to have this drama. Look what they did to my vase. An object, I said. Just a thing, unlike that rabbit. Dad looked at me across the table, shame flushing his cheeks, and muttered something like, "Let's just," then stopped. That was the sum total of his courage. Mom's lips thinned. Rhea, don't you dare make a scene. We don't do that in this house. In your house, I said, the rule is pretending pain doesn't exist and then calling it overreacting. Don't worry, there won't be a scene. We're leaving. You always dramatize everything, Amanda snapped. This is nothing. Honestly, it's pathetic. You're right, I told her. There's nothing to say because you'll never understand. I turned to Travis. Let's go. He zipped Camilla's coat, hands shaking with quiet fury. Camilla held the rabbit's one good arm, like the hand of someone who would not leave. Stop this nonsense right now, Mom barked, voice chasing us down the hall. Children need to face reality. I met her eyes. Reality? Here's reality. You will never get near my daughter again. Ever. How dare you speak to your mother like that? She shrieked. Like an adult who protects her child, I said, calm and final. Her voice blurred into a storm of rules and lessons and pronouncements about toddlers and toys. It all turned into rain on a windshield, loud, constant, irrelevant. We closed the door on it. Outside, the air was damp and honest. Travis settled Camilla into the car. She was sniffling, but the sobs had thinned into exhausted shivers. I slid in beside her and took the torn arm from her small, shaking hand. We'll fix him, I whispered. She turned her face to me, eyes glassy and fierce. Will he be like before? Better, I said, touching the frayed edge, because now he'll have a scar. Do you know what that means? She shook her head. It means he went through something hard and still survived. It means he's strong. She nodded, finally closing her eyes. We got home late. We ate something we didn't taste. We tucked her in. Do they think I'm weird? She asked, thumb hovering near the seam. No, sweetheart, I said, smoothing her hair. You remember your mom. That's not strange. That's beautiful. Travis sat on the edge of the bed. Listen, kiddo. You're strong. You're brave. Your mom would be proud of you. Nobody gets to decide what matters to you. When the house settled into the midnight quiet that tells you who you are, I took the rabbit to the kitchen and turned on one yellow lamp. I threaded a needle, set the torn arm where it should live, and began. Stitch by stitch, careful and steady. Every time the needle pierced fabric, I heard Mom's voice again. Your mom's dead. Time to get over it. And every time I pulled the thread through, I answered without speaking. No. We don't get over love. We build around it. Halfway through, my fingertip felt a crinkle along the ripped seam. I paused. Pressed. There, between the old batting and the fabric, a thin layer, paper, had been flattened by years of hugging. Not now, I thought. Not tonight. First I would make the arm strong again, make the body whole, make the promise visible. Then I would open what was hidden. Protect first, investigate second. I tied a neat knot, reinforced the seam the way my grandmother taught me, and smoothed the ear that had been kissed thin. The rabbit looked worn and truer, not good as new, but better than new. Scarred and held together with love you could point to. I set him on Camilla's nightstand, facing her pillow so he would be watching when she woke. I stood there longer than I planned, listening to that steady child-breathing sound that dissolves the bravado of the day. In my head, lines I'd swallowed since childhood stood up and walked out. I would not let them walk back in. Downstairs, I opened my laptop. I had set up autopays years ago because they made life easy. Making things easy had been my function in this family for as long as I could remember. My fingers hovered over the trackpad. I thought about my role, golden child sister, background daughter, reliable wallet, and then about the small girl upstairs holding a rabbit by its reattached arm and sleeping like the world might be safe. The shape of my life changed inside that thought. I began with the mortgage top-up, then the country club dues, the salon package, the sports fees, click, cancel, remove. The screen pinged confirmation after confirmation like a metronome for a new rhythm. Each one felt like sliding a barb out from beneath skin. Breathing came easier. When the last window closed, I leaned back, spine straight. Tomorrow would bring calls and righteousness and the choreography of guilt. I would answer only to my own house. Upstairs, Camilla turned in her sleep and tucked the rabbit under her chin. I made a silent promise to the woman I never met who had chosen that toy, and to the woman I was still choosing to be. I will not let them rush her healing. I will not let them define our love, and I will open that hidden seam when the morning is kind. Morning came soft and gray, the kind of light that makes every room feel like it's waiting. I found Camilla at the foot of our bed, bare feet curled against the carpet, rabbit in her arms. "Look," she whispered, lifting him up like a miracle, the stitched arm held, crooked but strong. I had left the seams visible on purpose. "He's whole again." Her smile fought through the cracks of sleep. I pulled her close. "See? No one can take him from you, not while we're here." Travis ruffled her hair. "Even if someone tries to ruin something, you've got us. We'll make it right." Her glow was worth every sleepless stitch. When she ran to the kitchen, the house felt lighter, but I stayed heavy in the chair, staring at my laptop. The auto-pays I'd canceled last night sat in my history like small, sharp exclamation points. Mortgage top-ups, Amanda's fees, Mom's salon packages, the club dues. I thought of Mason, telling his friends about a beach trip that was never his to claim. I thought of Mom's vase, her scream, her flat dismissal of grief. Travis poured coffee and slid it across the table. "You didn't sleep." "Barely. You're sure about cutting them off?" "More sure than anything." I tapped the trackpad. "They took enough from me. They're not taking her, too." He nodded, steady as always, but his jaw flexed. "Then we hold the line. No second guessing." By the end of the week, the storm arrived. The first call came from Mom, her voice bright like she was reading lines from a script. "Rhea, it's the 1st of the month. The transfer didn't come through. You probably just forgot." "I didn't forget," I said. "There won't be any more transfers." Silence, then the inhale of outrage. "How could you? We're family." "Exactly. And family doesn't treat children like garbage." I hung up before her sermon could start. Hours later, Amanda called. "Do you realize Mason can't play travel hockey now? Those fees came off your card. He's devastated." "I'm a single mom," she snapped, when I didn't answer fast enough. "You know how hard this is." "I do," I said evenly. "That's why I protect my child first. Mason's your responsibility, not mine." "You're selfish." Click. By the next morning, my voicemail was stacked with Mom's monologues. "After everything we've done for you, God sees everything. You're making a fool of yourself." Deleted, one after another. They never contained questions, only orders wrapped in guilt. Then Dad, who usually melted into the wallpaper, finally surfaced with a text. "If your mother has a heart attack from this stress, it will be on you." I stared at the screen, a laugh breaking out sharp and bitter. Of course. Now my duties included cardiac management. When they realized I wasn't answering, they went after Travis. Call after call, text after text. He kept it simple. "Talk to Rhea. It's her decision." Solid as bedrock. But storms don't stop at drizzle. One Sunday, pounding shook the door like fists were a battering ram. I already knew, before I opened it, Mom, Amanda, and Dad, surprisingly present, as if today required a full SWAT team. They marched inside without waiting, as though my house still belonged to them. Mom's eyes swept the hallway, already judging the arrangement of shoes and coats. Dad dropped into a chair like he was presiding over something official. Amanda folded her arms, a performance of righteous sisterhood. "We need to talk," Mom said, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Your behavior is unacceptable. You don't just cut off your family." "I didn't cut off family," I said. "I cut off toxicity. There's a difference." "You owe us," Dad added, throat tight, but words surprisingly intact. "We raised you. We poured our time, our effort, our money into you." I almost laughed at the novelty of Dad stringing full sentences together. "What is this? An invoice for my childhood? Trust me, I've paid you back plenty. If anything, you owe me, for years of silence and comparisons and teaching me that my role was to make life easy for everyone else." Amanda rolled her eyes. "Oh God, drama queen." I turned to her. "Is that what you call protecting a child from being told her dead mother doesn't matter? Drama?" Amanda pressed forward. "Do you even realize Mason can't go to camp now? He's been waiting all year. He already told all his friends." I shook my head. "Your son's summer isn't my problem. My daughter's heart is. That's where my money goes." "That's cruel," she snapped. "You're stealing from him." "No," I said softly. "What's cruel is looking an 8-year-old in the face and telling her to get over her mother's death. That's what you and Mom did." For a moment, even Dad shifted. His eyes darted to Mom. "Doris, maybe just apologize. You went too far with the rabbit." Mom's mouth tightened. She muttered something that sounded like, Fine. I didn't mean anything by it. Don't be mad. Her eyes never met mine. For anyone else, it might have sounded like peace. To me, it was strategy, a placeholder apology meant to unlock the vault of my bank account. You think this is about one toy? I asked. One dinner? This has been years. Years of being told I was less, that I had to swallow it and smile. Now you've done the same thing to my daughter, and I'm done. Amanda's arms crossed tighter. Fine, whatever issues you have with Mom and Dad. But Mason? Why punish him? He didn't do anything. I'm not punishing him, I said, low and even. I'm reminding you that I'm not an ATM. My daughter comes first. And then Mom snapped. The mask cracked and her voice hissed like a blade. She's not your daughter, Rhea. She's someone else's child. One fight with Travis, one divorce, and she's gone. But we're your blood. Your mother, your father, your sister. You can't throw us away for a child who isn't even yours. The words hit the air like glass breaking. For a second, I thought I might fold under the weight, but something steadier rose instead. Camilla is mine, I said. Not by blood, but by choice, by love. And that counts for more than DNA. Travis stepped from the hallway then, silent until now, but solid as stone. Rhea's right. Camilla is our daughter. We will protect her with everything we've got. And no, we're not splitting up. Not now, not ever. Erica won't end up alone. We're a family. You lost that title long before I came along. Mom flinched, as if he'd struck her. She stepped close, eyes sharp. You'll come crawling back when life turns on you, and it'll be too late. No crawling, I said. I've survived plenty, with or without you. The door slammed behind them, the sound rattling the frames on the wall. The house trembled, but inside me, a stillness spread. For one fragile moment, I thought maybe this was the end of it, but I should have known better. Because within days, the retaliation began. Camilla came home pale, clutching her backpack straps like lifelines. Grandma came up to me after school, she whispered. Her lips quivered. She said it's my fault, that I broke the family because I won't let go of junk. My stomach turned to ice. She told me if I don't convince you to stop being mad, I'm a bad girl. I crouched and took her face in my hands. Sweetheart, listen to me. None of this is your fault. The adults are guilty here, not you, never you. Her shoulders shook. But she said, No, I cut in. You are a good girl, the best. Don't you ever believe otherwise. Travis wrapped his arms around us both, holding us until her shaking stilled. When she finally slept, I went to my desk. Paperwork spread beneath the lamp, pen steady in my hand. I filled out the forms, line after line, a legal barrier made of ink. By morning it was filed. A restraining order. Now it wasn't just words, it was law. The restraining order should have given me peace, a wall built of signatures and statutes. Instead, it felt like painting a line on the floor and daring them to step over it. And of course they did. 2 weeks passed before the next volley. A white envelope slid through the mail slot with no return address. Inside, a photocopied notice from the country club. Membership suspended for non-payment. At the bottom, in Mom's tight cursive, happy now? I left it on the counter without a word. Amanda followed up with a text, all caps, the kind that burns your eyes. Mason's crying, no camp. He packed his suitcase. You satisfied? A photo was attached, an empty suitcase yawning open on Mason's bed. I powered the phone off, turned to see Camilla on the rug building a crooked castle out of Legos. She looked up, rabbit in her lap, and smiled shy. That smile was my answer. Yes, I was satisfied. But silence never held for long. Late one night, after Travis had gone to bed, I sat with the rabbit under the kitchen lamp. My fingertips traced the seam I'd stitched. That crinkle I'd felt the first night nagged like a secret pressing against skin. I slid the needle in carefully, opened in the seam an inch, and found it. A folded slip of paper, yellowed, soft-edged with time. My breath caught. I unfolded it with hands that didn't feel like mine. The handwriting was small, careful, a woman trying to fit too much love into too little space. To the woman who will love my daughter next, it began. Tears blurred the ink. This rabbit is her bridge. Please don't take it from her. Please don't let anyone tell her she's wrong for holding on. She will need time. Let her have it. Protect her from people who rush her grief. And if you ever wonder, yes, she will love you. She already has it in her to love twice. Thank you, whoever you are. The letter ended without a name, but I could see her, the woman whose absence filled every corner of my home, Camilla's first mother. I pressed the letter to my chest. A vow crystallized. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was hers. A woman I never met had handed me her daughter, through time, through fabric, through a rabbit stitched with memory. I placed the letter back inside, resealed the seam with stitches neat as heartbeat, and whispered to the rabbit as though he carried her voice. I promise, I won't let them take her anchor. The next day, I noticed another storm brewing, this one in numbers, not words. Sorting through old statements, I spotted a payment I didn't recognize, tucked between utilities and mortgage entries. Small, regular, disguised. My name on the authorization. Except, I'd never signed it. The pit in my stomach told me before my brain caught up. They'd been using me. Not just the auto pays I'd willingly set up, but lines of credit tied to my name. Forged signatures. Quiet debts smoothed over with my steady income. I confronted Dad first. He sagged into his chair like furniture about to splinter. It kept the house afloat, he muttered. Your mother couldn't bear to lose it. I looked the other way. And Amanda? My voice shook. She needed help. We thought, you have more. You can afford it. I almost choked on his bitter laugh. That line, the family gospel, you can afford it, Rhea. The we've covered for you, Mom had muttered, during their last visit suddenly twisted sharp. They hadn't been covering for me. They'd been covering themselves, hoping I'd never notice. I wanted to scream, to press charges, to scorch the earth, but Camilla's face floated up, pale and trembling the day Mom had cornered her outside school. Protect first, investigate second. That night, I told Travis everything. His hand closed around mine like a lock. Then we confront them, not with anger, with terms. If they want any piece of peace, they sign. So I drafted it, a repayment plan, a quitclaim on any claims to my finances, and one last requirement, a written apology to Camilla. Not performative, not to me, to her. Something she could keep, even if she never wanted to read it until she was grown. It was more mercy than they deserved. We met at a notary's office, neutral ground. Dad's hands trembled as he signed, and as he left, he slipped me an envelope. For her, he whispered. Inside, a photo, worn at the edges. Camilla as a toddler on her mother's hip, both smiling at a summer fair. He'd kept it all these years. For a second, I saw the man he could have been if silence hadn't ruled him. Amanda signed because she had to, muttering under her breath. Mom refused, spat words like knives. She's not yours. One day you'll see. You'll regret throwing away blood. Then she stormed out, the pen untouched. It didn't matter. The papers were enough. That night, I tucked Camilla in. She clutched the rabbit, scar seam visible, letter safe inside. I read her a story, kissed her forehead, and whispered a vow I had already made in a kitchen at midnight. No one rushes your heart. No one takes what's yours. Not while I'm here. Travis leaned in the doorway, watching, quiet pride written across his face. Later, when the house slept, I opened the photo Dad had given me and placed it beside the letter inside the rabbit's seam. Now her anchor carried two mothers' promises, the one who gave her life and the one who chose to guard it. And for the first time in years, the silence of my house felt like peace. Not absence, not punishment. Peace. The quiet after the papers were signed was the kind that buzzes in your ears, the kind you don't trust. At home, Camilla sprawled on the rug, drawing with crayons, her rabbit beside her like a bodyguard. Travis graded history essays at the kitchen table, red pen tapping in rhythm. From the outside, we looked like an ordinary family. Inside, I knew the war had only shifted shape. 2 days later, Amanda showed up at my door, eyes red, voice hoarse. I didn't mean it, Rhea, she said before I could even speak. I was desperate. Mason, he asks why he can't see his cousins, why you hate us. He doesn't understand. I let her in, but only as far as the entryway. The papers were still fresh, the ink not yet fully dry in my mind. I don't hate you, I said. I hate what you did. There's a difference. Her gaze flicked to the living room where Camilla was humming softly over her drawing. She looks happy, Amanda murmured, as if it stung. She is, I said, because no one here tells her to stop grieving. Amanda's lips pressed into a line. I signed your damn papers. Isn't that enough? No, I said quietly. It's not about money anymore. It's about how you treated a child. She didn't stay long. When the door closed behind her, the air lightened again. That night, I told Travis, they'll keep trying, not with money, with guilt, with shadows. He set down his pen. Then we stay lit. No shadows in this house. Weeks passed. The calls slowed. The texts thinned. One afternoon, Camilla skipped into the kitchen holding the rabbit, ears bouncing. "I think he's braver now," she said, "because he has a scar." I crouched to her level. "You're right. Scars mean we lived through something and came out stronger." Her eyes sparkled. "Like us?" "Exactly like us." We began planning the ocean trip again. Just us three. No extra names on the booking. No borrowed joy. Camilla circled seashells in a guidebook with a purple marker. Travis teased her about building a castle big enough for her rabbit to rule. She laughed, the kind of laugh that makes you forget there was ever silence in her chest. And then the letter returned to me, not in paper, but in memory. Protect her from people who rush her grief. I thought of the woman who wrote it, whose face I'd never see, whose love still stitched through every fiber of that toy. She had trusted me, without knowing me, to stand guard. So I made one last choice. I took the photo Dad had slipped me, folded it into the letter, and tucked them both deeper into the rabbit's seam. 2 women's promises, bound in fabric, a legacy she could carry until she was ready to open it herself. On the morning we left for the trip, the house smelled like sunscreen and toasted bagels. Camilla bounced at the door, backpack thumping, rabbit in tow. "Ready?" she asked. "More than ready," I said, locking the door behind us. The car hummed to life. Travis glanced at me, his smile small but sure. "Feels like a new chapter." "It is," I said, and I meant it. As the city blurred behind us, I realized something simple and sharp. I had been waiting for permission my whole life. Permission to protect, to choose, to cut ties. But no one gives it. You take it. You stitch it with your own hands, scar and all. The ocean waited ahead. For the first time, it felt like it belonged to us. And as Camilla pressed her forehead to the window, rabbit tucked safe under her chin, I whispered a vow that had become the center of everything. "You're safe now, always." Because in the end, it wasn't about who signed papers or who carried blood. It was about who showed up, who held the thread, who chose to love. And I chose. Every time I chose her, the ocean air carried salt and freedom, the kind that sticks to your skin and makes you feel like you belong to something larger than yourself. Camilla dashed toward the waves, rabbit clutched tight in one hand, her laughter rising above the roar of the tide. Travis and I followed, slower, our steps heavy with the years it had taken to get here. She built castles until her fingers wrinkled. She buried the rabbit gently in sand, only his ears poking out like a guard on duty. Watching her, I realized this trip wasn't just a vacation. It was proof. Proof that we could build joy without permission slips signed in someone else's handwriting. At night, when the tide hissed against the shore outside our rental cottage, I sat with the rabbit on my lap. My fingers traced the seam where the letter and photo slept inside. I imagined the day Camilla would be old enough to open it. Would she recognize her mother's handwriting? Would she understand the way 2 women, strangers to each other, had conspired across time to protect her? Travis touched my shoulder. "You're far away." "Thinking about when she's ready," I admitted. "She will be. And when she is, she'll see everything you did for her." He kissed my temple. "And everything you didn't do. You didn't stay quiet. That matters." The words sank deep. Because silence was the family currency I'd grown up with. Dad's silence. My silence. Even Amanda's, in her own way, hiding behind performance. I'd broken it, and that break was permanent. On the last night, Camilla curled between us in bed, sea air tangling her hair. "Do you think Mom can see me?" she asked, eyes wide in the dark. "Yes," I whispered, the truth steady in my chest. "And she's proud of how brave you are, of how much love you carry." She smiled against my arm and drifted to sleep, rabbit tucked under her chin. When we returned home, the silence of the house felt different, not fragile, not waiting for the next blow. It felt chosen, like a blanket pulled up on a cold night. My phone still lit up sometimes, Mom's dramatic essays, Amanda's clipped guilt trips, Dad's half-hearted attempts at mediation. I ignored them. One evening, after Camilla had gone to bed, I scrolled through old voicemails just to remind myself why I'd drawn the line. Mom's voice rang sharp in my ear. "You'll regret this. Family is blood." I deleted it mid-sentence. Because family isn't blood. It's protection. It's love stitched into scars. It's showing up, even when it costs you. I peeked into Camilla's room. She slept deeply, rabbit by her side, seams visible, promises hidden within, stronger for what had been torn. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the extra. I felt like the center of my own story. Sometimes I catch myself wondering, was I too harsh? Should I have swallowed my pride, kept paying, pretended things were fine? But then I look at her, at the peace on her face, at the way she laughs freely now, and I know the truth. I chose her, and I'd choose her again, every single time. What about you? Did I go too far, or was this the only way? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. And if this story struck something in you, subscribe for more.